one of these back in March. We had a lunch and learn program with James Carpentier and David Hickey from ISA. And they shared and discussed issues and trends with planners and sign manufacturers in our region, issues that we are most concerned about in 2021. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you can log into our member portal. Excuse me, my mouth's not working. You can log into our member portal and view the video. We plan to hold these every 2 to 3 months to discuss issues that are important to you and to our industry, and hope to provide maximum value for your time. So please, in the future, shoot us an email with any pressing issues or concerns that you would like to discuss with your fellow sign shops and supplier members. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few things about Southern States and ISA. Our goal is to stay engaged with you and provide important updates. You should be getting emails from us regularly, and make sure to follow us on social media as well. Remember, Southern States members can contact Shea Management for HR questions and information throughout the year. This is a really good benefit that we've managed to bring into the association. And from what I'm hearing, it's terribly underutilized. So be sure if you have any issues, reach out to them. That's what they're there for. We also have member spotlights where any member can complete a short questionnaire and be highlighted on our social media accounts. It's a great way to bring attention to your company, your products, your services, and any project that you may have completed, gotten a promotion, or any other success story that you wish to share with us. Contact the association office if you would like to be recognized. We've also continued our safety meetings information that your company needs to meet through state and federal OSHA guidelines. As a local sign company and you're a member of our association, you automatically become a member of ISA. There are numerous resources available for your business, including training, legislation help, code assistance, of course, the trade show and expo, and education. A lot of the members are employees within our company have spent a lot of time online getting their badges and certificates from some of the education sessions. They're very informative, and they're broken out for all the different segments of what we do. You should have received by now some information on our fall conference. It's going to be held here in Orlando at the Rose Shingle Creek Orlando venue. Beautiful place, been there many times on similar types of conferences. Well laid out, and a great golf course that we're going to be playing on as well. It's going to be on September 30th through October 2nd, and again at the Rosen Hotel. More information will be coming out soon. I believe the portal for the suppliers and all is open for registration, and the registration for individual companies will be taking place, will be available shortly. Just before we get started here, I want to go over a few housekeeping items before moving ahead. As an attendee, you do have the ability to raise your hand to ask questions or type them in the chat box. However, we would ask that if you would please keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking or responding to a question. Otherwise, we'll hear all of those squeaky chairs in the background. We're happy to have 4 of our industry leaders with us here today. Michael Siebert, co-owner, sign brother, and Philip Henry, his single senior project manager. They are both from Sign Brothers in Bogart, Georgia. We're also fortunate to have Matt DeSalvatore, who Matt now heads up our legislative committee here at Southern States, and his Crackerjack project manager, Kim Stagg. They're both on board with us today. These guys will cover some of the best practices in the sign industry for successful, scalable project management. Please join me in welcoming Michael, Philip, Matt, and Kim.
Awesome. All right. Great. Good morning. Happy lunch hour, everyone. Ken, appreciate the introduction. Big thanks to Christina and Lauren over at Southern State Sign Association offices for the support. Appreciate everybody zooming in. Hope to add some value. Truth is, like when we started kind of the idea of the lunch and learn, I'm a relatively new director at on Southern State Sign Association, so I had to Google what the exact role of a trade association was, what value we provide to our members. Honestly, because I knew the SSSA membership came right along with an ISA membership kind of included in the deal. And that was always enough for me to just be a member and sign on every year. But when I was asked to be a director, I wanted to provide value at a deeper level. And one of the things that a trade association does do is champion best practices for the industry. So I know the sign industry is super unique in some of the challenges that it faces, from the balance of the creative with the fabrication, with the installation, while simultaneously being commoditized along the way. So one of the things that I hope to address today is the pain point of project management. It's something that I would say Sign Brothers, my business, has learned the hard way. We've been in business for 14 years. So I know that there are a lot of much longer generationally established sign businesses out there that might be doing it. And I know Matt and Kim over at Creative Signs are I believe, celebrating their 40-year anniversary this year. So big shout out to them for being a generational sign shop and really carrying the torch for the industry. So I know I won't have all the answers today, but I'm happy to share what's made Sign Brothers successful so far as a company. And what I'd like to do is start things off, give an overview of my company, a history of how project management has evolved in our company, and how our business has grown. And then Matt and Kim and Philip will also bounce around this discussion this morning, afternoon, to discuss some helpful technology and other helpful tips that we've implemented to help our PMs. So Christina, go to the next slide for me if you could. Was having a little bit of an iPad Zoom communication issue, so Christina's helping us out and run the show on the slide end. But so back in 2007, Sign Brothers, we got our started out just like any old retail shop. Somebody calls in or somebody walks in and they say they need a sign, and we do it. There wasn't a whole lot of project management required to make a banner or a yard sign. Everything that came to our shop, we said yes to it, and we figured out how to make it. Gradually over time, I'm sure a lot of y'all might share the same history. You got a little bit better at doing a little bit more of the complex projects. We learned that over this time, the key to success and ultimately profitability was managing and communicating the details from the concept to the completion. Over time, especially in the past 5 years, I would say, we've really refined our processes to the point to where we've felt comfortable saying that we're a leader in managing large custom sign projects. If you could flip over to the next slide. The reason I think that we're a leader these days is, well, I'll take one step back. Click one more time for me, Christina. There's a cover of a book called Traction. So how many, and I don't have a full shot of the screen, but how many of you have heard of the book Traction? Do a little hand wave icon for me. I'm gonna take a look and see if anybody's read the book or implemented the book in their business. I see a couple hands. This book is, the tagline for this book is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. For the first 8 years in our business, before we had any good processes in place or good project management in place, my brother and my business partner, Sign Brothers, hence the name, we'd look at each other and say, you know what we need to do? And then ... solve all the problems in our business by brainstorming. But then that never got to the title of the book. That never got traction. So this book did a fantastic job giving you a framework to work within to basically, and this is not a paid spot by Traction, but it gives you a way to address any issues in your business from the ground level all the way up to strategic planning, implement the change and follow up on how that's doing. So although the book doesn't go directly into project management itself, it does create the framework on how to implement and improve your project management systems when you're ready to put it in place. Highly recommend that book. All right, go to the next slide if you may. From a project management role in our company, to give you just transparency on what it looks like, we kind of have a hybrid role. Our sales and project management departments are kind of wrapped into one. My brother and I, Justin, kind of do all the outbound sales. If there's a new client that we want to pursue, we'll do that. But anything related to inbound sales, our project managers are responsible for that part of it. The client needs assessment, writing design instructions, putting together estimator notes, as well as the project management side of things, where we have pre-production checklists, install scheduling, and managing and communicating timelines with the customers. I'll dive into this a little bit deeper, but I think Kim and Matt over at Creative Signs have a little bit different way that they've structured their project management system. And I think I'll turn it over to Kim right now. And Kim, did you want to talk about your Creative Signs method?
Yep, and we can move right on along to the next slide. Then I can hop right into that. So we here at Creative Signs, we've been in a business for 40 years. We're a family-owned business. And with any family-owned business or a small business, it's all hands in the pot. Everyone's touching everything. And for us as a company, that was something that we saw, and Matt will kind of elaborate a little bit more on this later. We saw that was somewhat hindering our growth. We saw that by having certain hands in certain pots, it was making it so that, for example, sales were not progressing as quickly as they needed to. Projects weren't being done as efficiently. So what we did is we created a defined role model where our sales, estimating, and project management are all separate. So I am solely a project manager. That is what my responsibilities are here at Creative Signs. And as you can kind of see from our flow, it's fairly similar to the Sign Brothers, where from the client's needs assessment or like the initial interaction with the client, to design and estimator instructions, all the way down to the management of the timeline throughout the project. We also do and have those different steps. The only difference is that it kind of flows in and out between our salesman, our estimator, back to our salesman, and then it gets turned over to me as the project manager. One of the main reasons why we saw that, or we wanted to do this, again, because of all the different hands in the pot, we kind of saw that there were the natural ups and downs within managing a project, or the sales and the project management cycle. We're having a little bit too many downs, and the people who are in the downs, which, to kind of explain what that looks like, we look at the ups with being kind of like new orders coming in and things like, like newness, and the downs being permitting, work orders, vendor management, managing timelines, because that's the time where, the money, I guess, the deposit's here, but we're not actively out and pursuing new projects. And we saw that we were having people in the down that really didn't need to be in the down, in particular, our salesmen. So if we can move to the next slide, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. He's going to kind of explain how his somewhat strange hybrid role was affecting his work.
Thank you, Kim. So Matt DeSalvatore, Creative Signs, as said previously, we're a local sign company here in the Orlando area, 40 years strong. My parents both started the company. We always say they had 5 kids for cheap labor. I'm one of those kids, and I was thrust into the role of sales because I was the people person. And we didn't really have defined roles at that time because my dad was hand painting signs back in the day, and he was a great sign painter, but didn't really have a structure or processes, everything that we're talking about today. So when I did go into sales and I started selling stuff, it just was a natural progression that I would sell the job, and then I would permit the job, and then I would project manage the job. In between all of that, I'm estimating the jobs as well. So it's 4 roles, or Kim talked about different hands in the pot. I look at it as like having different hats and switching the hats, or different roles. And what we would see happen, the reason why we have a roller coaster here, is we'd have one high month of sales. If you could look at this roller coaster would be my sales for each month. And we'd have one really high month in sales. And then the next 2 months, sales would dip down because I didn't have time to follow up on leads because I was permitting the jobs that I had sold the previous month. And then the next month, I was project managing those same jobs. So I didn't have the time to reach out to new clients and do all the stuff that a salesperson should be doing. But then after all of those jobs were done, then we'd have a high peak in sales again, and then it would dip back down again. So we noticed this, and we saw, hey, the salesmen are actually just doing too much. Let's see if we can do a more clearly defined roles. And Kim came in a little later on, and we actually split it up to where I was doing sales and estimating, and then Kim was doing permitting and project management. And we really worked together as a team. And now she's going to explain a little bit later on how we've split that up into 4 separate roles. She already went into it a little bit, but she's going to do a little bit deeper dive on that. So I will hand it back to Kim.
And
oh, Kim, I think I'm actually the next slide.
Kim?
Okay, yeah, actually this one's going to me. This is Philip, project manager with Sign Brothers. So I was gonna go a little bit deeper into some of the systems that we use for actual sales tracking, communication, project management, because Michael gave the big picture overview, looking at the business, and then when I started working with Sign Brothers in 2017. I don't know that we had implemented any of these. We were still doing project notes, handwritten on a little printout, that had a place to draw the sign and put the measurements on there, because the majority of our projects were just maybe 1 or 2 signs or something like that. And then, we put in a project management or a design board in Google Sheets, but then that kind of got outdated. And so along the way, we've gotten more sophisticated, and I don't know about y'all, but it's typically like, all right, we got this giant project, we got to figure out how to manage it, and then through that struggle, we figure out a new system or a process that actually benefits the rest of our projects as well. So I think probably one of the biggest challenges in the sign industry is trying to standardize custom products, and especially the larger the jobs get, the more custom products that there are. And so the challenge only grows as you try to scale up. So complex and sophisticated systems are definitely necessary in order to scale without melting down or losing sleep and like, did I forget that detail, waking up in the middle of the night. I don't know if I'm the only one that does that, but anyway, so I'm just going to go into do a quick look into some of the systems that we've been using. Christina, you can go to the next slide. So first of all, I guess before I get into Streak, we operate out of the Google Suites system, which is really great in a lot of ways because it integrates well with a lot of other applications. And so the basic tools that they provide are great. And then you can customize it, and a lot of things are built to integrate into it. So that's been really helpful in scaling up systems. And we've tried to do everything like a free version of it first, maybe in Google Sheets or with Google Docs or something. And then when we outgrow that, we'll implement some sort of paid application. So the first thing I want to talk to you all about is Streak, which is a way to keep track of all the different lines of communication that you have. So obviously with a sign project and specifically a large scale one, keeping track of multiple conversations with different stakeholders is a huge challenge. So for example, in any given project, you may be communicating externally with the client and different decision makers, any other stakeholders on the client side, a project management firm. If you're doing any sort of large scale construction project, you may not even be working directly with the GC. There's another project management firm that also is handling details, the actual construction team, and then multiple vendors, not to mention permitting and all those other stakeholders. And then internally, you're communicating with your design department, your estimation department, your production team, the install crew, accounting and bookkeeping, administration. There's so many different people that you have to communicate with. It can just be overwhelming. And so one of the best things about Streak is that it's a communication platform that tracks and organizes project details with a focus on communication. Because it's optimized for Gmail, it actually lets you work out of your inbox without having to manually organize and sort into other folders. So I know some people use Salesforce, some people use other CRM systems for tracking communication, but we have found this one to be really great. So,
And if you're a smaller shop, it's free.
yeah, free. There's a point where they make you start paying, but
if you want to export if you have like a whole structure and you want to do some large exports so that you can do sales management between your entire department, it's free. It costs money, and it ends up costing considerable amount a year, probably $50 per person per month or something along those lines. But I've got 3-4 project managers who use it, and we can export to Google Sheet for free, and we don't have a need to pay. So we're about a $2.6 million shop, and we don't have to pay for Streak. There are plenty of other softwares that we have to pay for.
yeah.
It's not one of them.
So I won't dig super deep into this, but I would advise that you go and check it out. There's lots of tutorial videos on how it works, but bullet point version is an email comes in and you then assign that email to a project. And so for each project box or pipeline, whatever, there's all the different stages, and then you can assign all those different lines of communication to one box. So it's really helpful for like, okay, I got to look up the permitting email. Okay, I got to look up the client email, but it's all organized easily. And you can export custom reports and really customize it however you want. So it's great for tracking a project, the communication through the different stages. All right, Christina, you can advance the slide. Another project management tool that we just implemented as we've been working with larger architectural projects is Monday.com. And this is more focused directly on project management. It's similar where you break down the flow of a project into the different phases, and then underneath that phase, you do all the different items that need to be checked off. And then underneath those items, you can do sub items, so you can get as granular as you want. It actually can export to a Gantt chart view to help keep track of all those timelines and the different dependencies. And then also it's interactive, and so you can have communications with the different team members along the way. So, for the sign contract, I can leave a comment and say, tag somebody, be like, hey, did we do this thing? And then it sends them an email notification. So that's really helpful. You can go to the next slide, Christina. We also use Monday.com for some of our different project queues. And so, for example, we've got the design queue on there. We've got an estimator queue. This is where we keep track of all the projects that each department is trying to work through. And as you can see, again, there's the little comment boxes where we can talk back and forth, the submittal date, the due date, the project manager it's assigned to, which designer it's assigned to, the status. So is it in queue? Is it in progress? Is it on hold? You know, it's all customizable, what priority it is, what version you're on, the estimated timeline. And then if you look at that little play icon, you can actually,
It's the blue circle. It's probably zoomed out on your screen, but that second farthest to the right. Yeah.
you can actually time track your designers when they're designing. So once you are able to get to the place where you're charging for design, or even just double checking your accuracy on your estimated hours, it's really a great tracking tool. And then furthest to the right is the link to our project instructions. So you go to the next page, Christina. So just a quick example of what our project instruction notes look like. We do it all on Google Docs, so that way it's on the cloud and updatable and accessible from remote locations, or everybody can keep track of it. And this is where we put the detailed information. Well, starting actually with general project information, the client, the project, all that type of information, contact info, the general scope, estimator specific notes, design specific notes. And then once you get past that general information, also there'd be a link to like the Google Photos that we upload from the site survey and whatnot. And then after, this isn't shown, but beneath all that is where you go into each of the individual signs and the details, but figured y'all didn't need to see that. And then another great thing about this is that you can highlight certain parts of it and leave a note or assign it to a certain person so they know, hey, make sure to look at this detail. So again, there's multiple systems it takes to manage all these details. The last one I want to talk to y'all about is Sign Agent. You can go to the next slide, Christina. And we started using this recently, again, with larger architectural projects. And this is a really intense platform, and they've got a ton of tutorials, so I won't go too deep into it, but I'll just leave it at, it's a great way to do takeoffs, to get sign counts, to keep track of your sign locations for your installers. You can export sign message schedules for production to reference against. It's a great way to do submittals to the contractor by just having all this information in an updatable current live system that they can actually interact if they want. But I found that most of the time they don't want to learn a new system if they're using Procore or something like that, but try not to get my feelings too hurt about that. So anyways, this is great for keeping track of all the sign information. And gosh, when I got here a couple of years ago, it was like, take a picture, put it on the proof page, hope the installer can find it and follow the clues. So we've come a long way with that as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's going back over to Creative Signs to talk more about bottleneck areas.
Yes. So I'm back. Goodness gracious. I don't know what happened with my technology, but I'm back. So yes, I'm going to pick up in just talking about breaking the bottleneck. So one thing that we learned as a company early on, like I said, was that we were seeing that there are certain areas where our projects were slowing down. And as a project manager, the biggest thing for us is that we want to get the project from point A to point Z. We want the project to be completed. And I was seeing within, or Matt was seeing in the earlier stages within the project, that he was doing everything. He was a salesman, he was the estimator, he was the project manager. So things kept getting kind of, would slow down. Like sales would either slow down because he was focusing on project management would slow down because he was focusing on sales. So in doing so, what we did was that we went ahead and we split, kind of like he explained earlier. We brought on our wonderful estimator, Lynn, and then I was brought on as the project manager. But as I said before, when you're breaking your bottleneck and when we're figuring out where our workload is exceeding our capacity, as we expand and as we grow, bottlenecks are going to continue to grow as well. So as our estimator came on and as I came on, it encouraged Matt to then be able to do what he was good at, which is sell things, make a conversation with clients and make relationships with clients. And because of that, his sales grew, which ended up making it so that me as a project manager, my workload grew, which I loved and it was great. But with that, I was doing project management and I was being a permit tech when I was initially brought on to the team. So we had to actually split my role because the bottleneck started again with permitting, which in Florida, permitting, you should pity me if you don't, please do. Florida permitting is a special breed. That's the best way to explain it. But I know permitting is kind of a beast everywhere. And for us, we saw that our projects were really getting slowed down within the permitting process. And it wasn't something that was just external, it was internal. We didn't have good processes in place. I didn't really have time for it. And because of that, our projects were going slower. The aspects of project management that I was supposed to be working on weren't moving as quickly. I wasn't able to schedule things as quickly as I could have. And then and it wasn't necessarily allowing Matt to be able to sell as much as he wanted to because we just didn't have the capacity to take on any more jobs. So by splitting that up and again, figuring out where that bottleneck was, we added on our amazing permit tech, Erika, and she came on as the person who focused almost solely on permitting. And then she also was assisting me with minor things within project management. And again, as we continue with figuring out what a bottleneck is, you allow things to flow freely. So then I was able to project manage better. Our permits were going through quickly, and Matt just kept on selling, doing amazing, which he's still doing, and just kicking butt out there. So with that, we then expanded even further, and it was like, all right, Erika, I need you to help me out with more project management because our projects we just have too much going on. And then we brought on recently Angela, who is our newest permit tech, and we were able to split. The biggest, I think, tip I can get when it comes to breaking the bottleneck and just figuring out how to just really get over where your workload might be exceeding your capacity is utilizing your team to the best of their abilities and figuring out where their strengths are. Like I said, when we figured out that Matt's strength was solely in selling, like he can do project management, but Matt will say himself, project management is not his strong point. But when he was doing what he was good at and what he loved to do, that's when he really was shining. And that's when our company continued to grow and things started to flow. Me, I'm great at project management. Do not have me do permitting too. I can kind of do it, but it's not my strength. And I cannot, selling, definitely not where I should be right now. And because I was in where I'm supposed to be, I was able to really allow the projects to move along, manage everything moving forward, and so on and so forth, as you can see, as our little family tree continues to grow. The biggest things is just figuring out how to break that bottleneck, help us figure out how to kind of even out those ups and downs and make sure that they're mostly ups and not as many downs. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back on over to the Sign Bros, because another thing is with having all these different people on our teams, timing and productivity is key. Communication is key, but definitely making sure that those team members are doing things at the right times is key. So I'm going to hand it right back over so they can tell you guys about what they personally do.
Thanks. Yeah, Kim, appreciate that. I love the org chart and the way it irons out the different phases of support that even a project manager needs. So we have a hybrid sales and project management role, but even you've acknowledged it. Even just managing projects involves a lot of paperwork associated with permitting. Here in Georgia, it's a little bit more like the Wild West. Not quite Texas, but we'll get there. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what we've done to make our sales / project managers most effective and still maintain some semblance of sanity is giving some productivity tips with respects to time blocking. My team has found that to be extremely helpful. If they take their days and put them in compartments of the repeat tasks they know they're going to be doing. So as it relates to our industry, we like to break it down into 4 different quadrants. Obviously, there are going to be interruptions that come throughout the day. But if they can kind of know what tasks they're going to be doing during what times of the day, they can more easily schedule their tasks to be most effective. So if you're like me, well, I'm the creative brother. My older brother is my business partner. He's a lot more the business savvy. I'm the squiggly line, if you will. So I need frameworks to keep me on task. Otherwise, I'll just spin off on a tangent. This is why we created time blocking. So, early morning, they spend their time putting together design instructions for, the site surveys and client conversations they had the day before. Mid-morning, they'll do a lot of email response, a lot of feedback. So if they have another survey, they'll do that around mid-morning, lunchtime, then come back in the afternoon. Any designs that my designers have created kind of in that morning time block, they'll pass over to my estimator. We do have a dedicated estimator. It's a big help. That was the first role we kind of peeled out from the sales project management estimation. So write up an instruction for him. A lot of that's able to be quoted from or estimated from using the proof, if the proof is accurate. And then late in the afternoon, again, kind of client response, processing orders, getting things put into production. So if we go to the next slide, I will give once you put something into production, how do you ensure it's done effectively and managed from there? We kept running into the same information getting overlooked, the same issues arising at the point of the project handoff. So on our large projects, we'll get all of our department managers together and we'll do a project handoff meeting where we'll say, University of Georgia is rebranding their College of Education. So we'll be doing floors 1 through 4. This is what we're doing in those spaces. Here's what the proof looks like. This is our timeline. Here's our materials. Here's outsourced vendors, and we just do the whole thing. For the smaller projects, though, we can usually get all that information onto a single sheet. And that's what we call our pre-production checklist. And it has a lot of call outs to just all the questions that our production team might want to ask, all the information that our installers would want to know, on-site contact, big ticket numbers, what kind of tools or equipment that you're going to need on the installation itself. If it's a unique tool, obviously our van's stocked with most of everything they need. But this is just a super helpful form that ensures that all the details have been accounted for. And if they haven't been accounted for, this is that one last time to dot the I's, cross the T's before handing it over to the production department. All right, go to the next slide, if you will. All right, just with a click of a button, the sign has been made. It's been installed. The customer is super happy. They're ready to sign us a check over and just write us a positive Google review. That's what the client sees. What we see is the feedback. So our production department, our installers, they received the work order. They did the job. They got it done. It looks great. But they had to make a lot of decisions along the way that weren't clear. If there were any discrepancies on the work order and the proof, and those two, whether it's a call out that didn't line up, a paint color, or a wall type, those discrepancies needed a place to get addressed to make sure that our project managers weren't consistently creating challenges for our production and install team to solve. Greek philosopher Cicero said, my English teacher in high school beat this into our head, to err is human, but only a fool persists in his error. So we have this doc to help our project managers to keep them accountable, to make sure they're not persisting in any errors that they create. And then I think in the next slide, if you would, Christine, I think the creative science team has a form they like to use.
Yes. So I love everything that you guys just talked about, Michael, because that's something that's so essential for us here at Creative Science as well. It's just kind of after a job is completed, hashing out everything and just kind of seeing how we can improve moving forward. And one of the main reasons why that's so important for us is because for managing projects as a whole, we've seen the importance in documenting out our processes and e-mything everything. So to kind of explain what e-myth is, going back to the book Traction, which we're also, we are actively going through the book and taking on some of the different tips within the books and some of the different processes. But e-mything is literally just the different people within your company, from sales to project management to production, so on and so forth, outlining out their roles and outlining out how they do certain things within their roles. So going back to what I was talking about earlier with our bottleneck, we saw that permitting was an area where we did not have it outlined well. And because of that, internally, we were our biggest enemy. Like, again, externally, Florida is beautiful and crazy. But there was a lot that was coming against us, but we weren't making it any easier on ourselves. Every single permit felt like it was the first time we were doing a permit. We had to take 5,000 steps back. If one person did a permit this time and we brought someone else on into the team as we continue to expand, they had no idea what they were doing. And we saw that that was not making us efficient, and that was not allowing our projects to be efficient in the areas where we did have control over things, in the areas where we could like make, again, everything move smoothly. We weren't. So what we developed is, again, this e-mything system, or we started to e-myth out all of our different roles. And that includes creating templates. My permit techs have templates for everything, from the initial welcome email to the documents that are being sent to our clients. It is so unbelievably spelled out that they could hand me this document and I could do it. Now, do they want me to? No. They know that those permits will not go through as quickly. But if I needed to, if a day came in where my permit tech was out of the office, I could pick up right where one of them left off because of how clearly it's outlined. They also streamline the processes. So it's something where there were a lot of things that we like not having templates, or not having just ways that we can, people that we can communicate with at different municipalities that we've developed relationships with, or different processes for different types of signs. They streamlined those processes and they created living documents. They created documents that can constantly be changed. As I said, we recently added on a new permit tech. Her name is Angela, and she's amazing. And one of the things that we told her immediately when she came in is like, hey, we're giving you these processes. We're telling you, like, this is how we do it. But if you see anything that you're looking at it and you're like, this is dumb, this is not this is not helping us at all, or this doesn't work anymore, you're more than welcome to change it. You're more than welcome to make it your own. And that's something that across the board, both within our permitting department, me as a project manager, as well as making its way all the way out to our installers, we've been asking them to really start to document how they do things. Because again, there's a lot of things that are out of our hands when it comes to signage. Everything is custom. Municipalities are doing whatever they want and whenever they want. And, like, there's our clients are sometimes doing whatever they want and whatever they want. But the one thing that we can control is what happens internally. And in managing a project, it's so essential that if we can make something simple and if we can make something streamlined, that we do so. And we found here again at Creative Science, the best way to do that is just to outline how to do something detailed. So that's our biggest tip that we have. But I think for now, what we're going to do is hand it right back over to Ken and Todd.
Actually, I'll jump in real quick here. Ken said something at the beginning that we haven't stated since, but we've all been alluding to, which is scalability. the whole idea behind this is being able to be scalable. And that's what e-mything each job does. If we clearly define the roles of the salesman, the estimator, the project manager, and the permit tech, and they e-myth out what their job is and what their role is, and you can clearly define that, then when it gets to a point where you have a bottleneck and you need another estimator, or you need another salesman, or you need another project manager, you can easily hire someone who is skilled and put them into place and say, here's the process you need to follow, because we want every customer to have the same experience at Creative Signs and at all of our businesses, that when they get a salesman, you don't want one salesman to do it one way and one salesman to do it another way, or one project manager to do it one way and another one to do it a different way. It needs to be done the same way. The culture needs to be there. And without the clearly defined roles, the e-mything, as we call it, because the book, you're not going to get that scalability, because you'll hire a new project manager and they're going to want to do what they want to do. They're going to want to do what they did at their last sign shop, but you've got different software, and it has to be clearly defined for them to do that. One other tip that I have for salesmen that have project managers, we had a meeting about this a few months back, and we call it being a shield for our project managers. Because as salesmen, I love my project manager. Kim is amazing. Her job is so stressful already, and I don't need to add to the stress of that. So when I know that a client is upset, I still, throughout the whole process, I'm copied on all of the emails that Kim, we have like a handoff period that once we get a deposit or a PO on a job, I get copied on that, or I copy Kim on that email. If the job requires permitting, I also copy the permit tech, and the client gets handed over to them. But moving forward, layouts that get sent over, whatever else that happens with that client, I'm always copied on those emails. And if I catch wind that this client is upset, I'm still the face of the company for that client, and I need to step in. And we've clearly defined that role, that when a client is upset, it is not the project manager's job. It is the salesman to step in as a shield for the project manager to protect them, because at the end of the day, I don't want Kim to get so stressed out that she quits, because she takes care of all of my jobs and she does a wonderful job. So that was just one of the other notes that I wrote down. One last tip that I have is something that we've all alluded to throughout this whole thing, is taking the big picture in mind. When we have a problem, I think our knee-jerk reaction is, how do I fix this problem right now? I need to fix this right now. And while we can do that, there needs to be a cooling off period of whatever that issue was. We usually stick with around 48 hours, and then we revisit it and say, okay, we fixed that problem right now, but how can we fix that problem to where it doesn't happen in the future? Because that's, if you don't do that, you're going to continue to run into the same problems. And when you have a problem, you can make a process, if it's continual, to solve it. And now we will hand it off, unless anyone else had any other tips to add, to Ken and Todd for Q&A.
Nope, I think you ended that perfectly.
Great job.
And we can go to the next slide.
You guys did a great job, all of you. I do have a question. Matt, you mentioned a handoff. When exactly is that handoff?
So the handoff, and we actually do this in our initial discovery meeting or discovery call with the client after we find out, yeah, we'd be a good fit for this project. It sounds like something we can help out with. Before we even go into estimating the job, we let the client know right up front, hey, I'm going to be your salesman. If we decide to move on to next steps, what that would look like is we would do a 50% deposit on this job, and we would move forward into permitting. At that point, I'm going to connect you with a project manager and a permit tech if the job requires permitting. And it's a templated email that we have that gets sent out to the client, where I connect Kim and Erika to them in an email. I say, Kim's going to be your project manager. She'll send you a layout over for approval. Once the layout's approved, Arika's going to reach out to you and let you know what documents she needs for permitting. We speak out, we let them know timeline. Permitting is going to take 2 to 4 weeks. We don't start fabrication on anything until we have a permit in hand, and then we discuss timeline for what fabrication is going to be after the fact. And then we give them a full timeline of once we have layout for approval and all the documents that we need for permitting, here's about the time that you're going to have your sign. Because before we were doing that handoff and we were not setting the expectation with the client ahead of time, it kind of felt for them that they were getting the old switcheroo. They thought they were going to do the whole job with me, and then I was then bringing in someone else because I didn't clearly communicate that to them. So we now have that templated email where they know ahead of time, okay, I'm going to have a project manager that's way more organized than Matt. I'm going to have a permit tech that's way better at permitting than Matt, because I speak them up in that initial thing. And all throughout the sales process, I'm letting them know, hey, if we move forward with this to next steps, you're going to have an amazing team that's behind you, helping you out with this sign. So that's our process for the handoff.
We have a very similar situation to what you're talking about at the beginning of the project, but more importantly, and particularly on the larger projects, we have a kickoff meeting internally once that contract's in, once the job's ready to go to production. If it's a permit involved, it's immediately after the permit is approved, and we get the entire team together, whoever's going to be involved, whether it be designers, project managers. But then we have that internal just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. We're kind of the same way, although I will say in our case, the salesman has a little more autonomy about selecting the project, but then we always are very careful to let the client know, look, once this becomes a contract, and you're going to be turned over to Wayne Hoagie, who is our senior project manager. And then he handles it from there. And the good thing about that, I believe you mentioned that earlier, that you guys do the same thing. Everybody involved with the project is copied on every email back and forth between the customer and the I archive most of those. So if there's ever a question about who did what or why, you can always refer back to the archive and find out where you need to go with that. So yeah, it seems like it's very similar across the board there for that type of thing. Communication's king. As long as everybody's on the same page, projects are successful. When they're not, they're not.
I have a question for Kim, if you're done. So at the point where you take over from sales and then it goes into permitting, so your permit tech is handling the permitting process 2 to 4 weeks, and Florida too, so I know that can also be up to 8 to 12 weeks.
Yes.
We got a few of those right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Orange County's getting really good though. I gotta say they're moving along.
Sure. You're right.
At what point, so during that permitting process, you're just kind of sitting back and just overseeing, and then once the permit's approved, you jump back in as the primary client contact, is that correct?
Yes. So I would say honestly, what the salesman is for the project manager is for the permit tech. So I'm still within the project. I'm invested in the permit. I'm trying to make sure that the permit's moving along. I'm keeping an eye on it because it also has a huge effect on the production scheduling for me and the installation scheduling, which is everything else that I'm also looking into. So if the permit's taking forever, I need to know that because I need to know when I'm like how my timeline is progressing. But if I see that a client is getting very upset with our permit techs, or if they're not understanding something that the permit tech is asking for and it's delaying things, or my permit tech's having a hard time getting something from the client, that's when I hop back in. So I have to be active in the conversations that are taking place via email, active in the processes that they're going through. So if things are not going well, so that I can have those conversations with the client. Because again, kind of like what Matt is for me, I don't want, when it's handed off, I might not be necessarily the main face of the of the company, but I am the face necessarily. I guess I'm the face of the project at that point. So I'm the one who's supposed to make sure that things are moving along. So if things are not moving along, I need to step in and say like, hey, what can I do to help? And I've asked my permit tech this multiple times. Because Matt asked me this multiple times, I'll turn to them and say like, what can I do to help you out? Where there might be a disconnect, or if I see that there's an obvious disconnect via email, again, I might just step in and just tell them like, hey, I'm gonna pop in here. Do you want to hop on a call with me with the client? So I'm not completely pulling it away from them as well, so that they're like now no longer a part of it and don't know what's going on, and I'm moving, I guess, behind their backs. But at the same time, I'm also helping them out so that they're not getting screamed out or dealing with something that really they shouldn't be in charge of.
But the permit tech is in communication with the client as well. You're just kind of like.
Yes, they are on that email chain. Yep. So there's a lot of moving parts, but they are on that email chain as well.
Thank you.
Kim, I want you to know I have that same plaque on your wall back there. It's one of my favorites of all time. I've had it for like 20 years. If anybody's ever had the opportunity to read that, What It Takes to Be Number One by Vince Lombardi, it's well worth reading. One of the favorite things ever of him, he always said that winning isn't everything, but wanting to win is. Words of wisdom from a great coach. Do we have any more questions? Anybody got anything else to add to this?
I got a question for Michael if no one else has a question. Michael, I saw you guys did the sign for Terrapin Brewery. Do you guys get free Hopsecutioner IPA beer for doing their sign for life?
Oh, they're so we're here in Athens, Georgia. That's our hometown brewery right there. So we get free beer just because we're buddies.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll have to when we get together, bring you some Hopsecutioner.
Maybe
I would love to come up and do a tour there.
Oh yeah. Oh, come on.
While you're here, we've got Creature Comforts in Athens too. So
yeah, we got a few good breweries around town, but yeah.
Nice.
Come on up.
Thank you.
I did have a quick question for.
Okay.
One more thing again. For Sign Brothers, the signage, how much does that run you per month?
They have different pricing tiers. We are up to 3 users and multiple people will log in under that username. I think they cut us a deal. It was like X amount for one user per user, but then I think last year they were like, we need to get more people on because of COVID. So we cut a deal with them to kind of slash that a little bit. So they're a small company, so they'll probably work with you depending on your needs. But starting out, what we did is we just bought one license and then everybody used it, which was a real pain, but it was a great way to sort of get in the game before having to pay a ton. So everybody would just sign in under my email address, my username, and then I'd be trying to update something, and then designers would sign in and would kick me off. And so once we got to the point where that was happening all the time, then that triggered the discussion to get 2 licenses. And then once we started to have issues there, we got 3, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's one of those. It's I think it's, if it's $50 a month per user or something.
I think it's at least 100 per user, if not more.
So yeah, you're looking at $1,200 a year for a user. But the time it saves for the projects that we're doing it's well worth the investment. So we do, if you're doing signage in these multifamily housing developments or any kind of
hospital, architectural signage,
interior wayfinding projects where you have sign packages of 500, 600, 700 signs, you're going to need something that like this. And it's worth it for us.
Yeah. And again, like I talked about before, everything that we have, we created a free version of it first and then upgraded to the paid version. So with Monday.com, I watched the tutorial video and then went to Google Sheets and built out a simple version of it myself. And then when we outgrew that, we purchased Monday with Sign Agent, downloading the plans into Illustrator or into Adobe Acrobat and just dropping sign 1, sign 2, sign 3, just annotating the plan manually. So it's less sophisticated, but there's ways that are kind of there's a step in between. So that's how it worked for us, just in case it's helpful.
There's another program out there that we used successfully for about 5 years at Stellar before we were purchased by Pablocki. It was called Contractors Cloud, which was originally set up as for roofers, but it was very easy to customize it to your. It's a very similar thing. It's you pay per user, and it worked really well. But once Pablocki took us over, they were looking for a platform that would work throughout all of the branches around the country. So we're in the process of switching over to that. But for a smaller shop, it really worked well for us. So just to throw that out there. Okay, I guess we've run out of all the questions that anybody wants. Thank you, Michael, Philip, Matt, and Kim. We really appreciate everything you brought to the table today. Excellent job, I gotta say. It was awesome. As a reminder, folks, we try to do this every 2 to 3 months. So if any of you out there have issues that you want to discuss, you want to learn more about, you want to toss around with some of your associates in the industry, please reach out to Christina and let her know. We'll put something together and get people organized and put it out there. As I said, this is the second one we've done. Worked out just as well, if not better than the first one. We have a little bit more experience now, but I like it, and I think we're on to something big, and we can get this out to more of our members. It'll be even better. If you need anything, if you've got ideas, please email us and let us know, and we'll be happy to talk it up for you and get some people to sit around and listen to you. For me, this is probably my last hurrah. I'm the outgoing president. I've been a member through this association since 1996, starting back with Florida Sign. I moved up there. I was president there. We arranged the merger into the southern states, became a president there a second time, actually. And this is it. When I'm done here, I'm done here. I'll be working with Matt on the legislative committee. I'm always available by email or through the association, particularly if you have any questions on legislation, on permitting. I love nothing more than to go down to City Hall and stand up for this industry. I've done it a few times. I've been drug into a back office a few times for being too loud. I've been accused by the city of Altamont of being harassing and bullying their people. Sometimes that's what it takes, folks. So saying that, I want to thank every one of you over the years that have supported me and supported this organization. And I look forward to continuing my relationship with this in some capacity as long as I can. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great afternoon.